It started as just another ordinary evening, the kind where silence wraps around you like a familiar blanket. I was lost in my thoughts when suddenly, my phone lit up with a message that shattered the calm. "Please don't come, Dad." Those words struck hard, echoing in the quiet room like a thunderclap. This isn't merely a story about a text. It's about a father's desperate attempt to reach his daughter when she feels the weight of the world closing in. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. The evening was quiet, the kind of stillness that settled deep into the bones of the old house. I sat alone in the living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting long shadows across the worn wooden floor. The clock ticked steadily, each second marking time in a way that felt almost cruel tonight. My phone buzzed quietly on the table beside me, breaking the silence with a sharp vibration that made my heart skip. I reached for it without thinking, and there it was, a message from Emma. Her name alone made my chest tighten. "Please don't come, Dad." The words blinked on the screen, stark and desperate. I read them again, as if the meaning might change if I looked harder. But no, the plea was clear, a boundary she was setting, though she never had before. The room suddenly felt colder, the weight of those 3 words heavier than anything I'd carried in years. I swallowed, trying to steady my shaking hands. Emma was my daughter, the girl I'd raised with hope and fierce love, but lately she had been distant, like a shadow slipping further from my reach. This message wasn't just a request. It was a wall thrown up between us, an invisible barrier I had no idea how to cross. I wanted to drop everything, to drive through the night and be by her side. But part of me hesitated. The message was a warning, a fragile signal that she needed space, that my presence might only make things worse. I sat back in the chair, my mind racing with the memory of all the times she'd pushed me away, the harsh words exchanged, the silences that stretched between us like canyons. The house around me felt too big, too empty without her laughter filling the rooms. I remembered the days when Emma's voice was the soundtrack of my life, her bright energy lighting up every corner. Now, even the sound of her name was a reminder of how far we drifted. I looked at the phone again, the message glowing like a beacon of pain. "Please don't come, Dad." It was the first real cry for help I'd received from her in months, and yet it was wrapped in rejection. I realized then that whatever was happening, she was facing it alone, and that thought broke something inside me. I wanted to call her, to hear her voice, to make sure she was safe. But I waited, afraid that my call might push her further away. Instead, I sat there in the quiet room, letting the moments stretch out, knowing that something had shifted between us, something fragile and urgent. The night deepened, and I found myself replaying old memories. Her first steps, the scraped knees I'd bandaged, the bedtime stories whispered in the dark. All those moments seemed distant now, like echoes from another life. I was filled with regret for the times I'd failed her, for the misunderstandings that had built walls instead of bridges. I thought about her growing up, the way she had once confided in me without hesitation, the dreams she shared with wide eyes and fearless hope. Somewhere along the way, those dreams had been clouded by shadows I didn't understand. And now, here was this message, a silent scream beneath the words, a call I couldn't ignore. I paced the room, my mind racing with possibilities. What had changed? What was she facing that made her ask me to stay away? I felt helpless, caught between the instinct to protect and the need to respect her wishes. The dilemma tore at me, a knot of fear and love tangled tight. I glanced at the clock again, the minutes slipping by as I debated my next move. My fingers hovered over the phone, ready to dial, but I stopped myself. Instead of rushing in blindly, I decided to call someone who might know, someone Emma trusted, someone who could reach her without crossing the line she'd drawn. The decision settled over me like a fragile hope. Maybe this call could change something, could be the bridge between her silence and the help she needed. I dialed the number, my voice steady though my heart pounded. The person on the other end listened carefully, promising to check in on Emma discreetly. As I hung up, I felt a sliver of relief, but the tension remained thick and unyielding. I sat back down, staring into the dim light, waiting for news, for any sign that Emma was okay. The night stretched on, filled with the quiet hum of the house and the steady beat of worry. I knew this was just the beginning, that things wouldn't be resolved with a single call or a single message. But in that moment, I held onto the fragile thread of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way back to each other. Somewhere beyond the distance, beyond the fear, there was still love, waiting to be reclaimed. The line went dead, and I sat in the silence that followed, my mind unraveling the tangled threads of our past. I'd asked a friend to check on Emma, to reach out when I couldn't. But as the minutes ticked by, my thoughts drifted back to the years that had brought us here. The moments we'd lost, the bridges burned, and the quiet spaces where our love had once thrived, now filled with distance and misunderstanding. I remember the first time Emma pulled away. It wasn't a sudden thing, but a slow retreat, like the tide pulling back from the shore, leaving behind cold sand and empty shells. We'd argued over small things, her choices, my expectations. But beneath it all was a deeper disconnect, a chasm neither of us knew how to cross. There were nights when I sat awake, replaying conversations that had gone wrong, wondering if I'd been too strict or too distant. I thought of the times she tried to tell me something important, only to be met with silence or frustration. Those missed chances haunted me now, a silent testament to what we'd lost. Emma had always been a strong girl, fiercely independent, with a streak of stubbornness that both challenged and inspired me. But somewhere along the way, that strength became a shield, protecting her from a world she didn't trust and perhaps from me. I saw now how much pain she must have carried alone, the weight of secrets and fears she never shared. Her message, "Please don't come, Dad," was a crack in that shield, a sign that she was struggling with something far beyond what I'd imagined. It wasn't just distance. It was vulnerability wrapped in a plea to be left alone. And that terrified me. I thought about the nights I'd come home late from work, exhausted and preoccupied, missing the signs that Emma was slipping away. The missed birthdays, the forgotten phone calls, the silences that grew longer with each passing day. I realized how much I'd taken for granted, assuming she was okay because she didn't ask for help. Now, with the weight of her message pressing down on me, I felt a deep ache, a mixture of guilt and helplessness. I wanted to reach out to tell her I loved her, to be the father she needed. But I also knew that pushing too hard might only drive her further away. That's why I called our mutual friend, a person Emma trusted, someone who could offer support without judgment. I hoped that this friend could gently check in, maybe open a door where I couldn't. As I sat there, the phone silent on the table, my thoughts turned to the things Emma might be facing. I imagined her alone in her apartment, the walls closing in, the weight of whatever burden she carried pressing down. Maybe it was more than just loneliness. Maybe it was a crisis she felt she had to bear herself. The thought made my heart clench. I pictured her trembling with fear or sadness, too proud or scared to ask for help. And yet, even in her silence, I could feel the depth of her struggle. I reached for the photo on the mantel, a picture of Emma from years ago, her smile bright and unguarded, eyes full of dreams. That girl still lived inside her, I knew, buried beneath the pain and fear. And I was determined to find a way to bring her back. The phone buzzed softly, breaking my reverie. It was a message from our friend. Checked in on Emma. She's holding on, but struggling. We'll stay close. Relief flooded through me, but it was tempered by the knowledge that this was far from over. Emma needed more than just a watchful eye. She needed to know she wasn't alone, that she could lean on someone, on me. I picked up the phone again, my fingers trembling as I typed a message to Emma, careful not to overwhelm her. "I'm here when you're ready. No ruse, no pressure, just love." I put the phone down, feeling the weight of those words. It wasn't much, but it was all I could offer for now. The room felt smaller somehow, filled with the echoes of past mistakes and a fragile hope of repair. I knew our relationship had been shaped by misunderstandings and missed moments, but beneath it all was a love that hadn't faded. I thought about the times Emma had confided in me as a child, the secrets shared in whispers before sleep, the dreams she dared to voice. I wanted to be that person again, the safe harbor in the storm. But first, I had to be patient. I had to listen, really listen, to what she needed without judgment or fear. I had to rebuild the trust that had been broken. I got up and walked to the window, staring out into the dark street. The night was cold, but somewhere out there was Emma, fighting her own battles. I whispered a promise to the quiet air. I would be there. Somehow, when she was ready. For now, I waited, not with empty hands, but with an open heart, willing to walk the slow path back to her. And in that waiting, I found a fragile strength, one born not of certainty, but of hope, love, and the quiet determination to be the father Emma needed, no matter how long it took. When the phone rang that night, my heart leapt so violently I thought it might burst through my chest. I had waited hours, every minute stretching taut with worry, each second a silent prayer that Emma was safe. The screen showed the name of the mutual friend I'd called earlier, a lifeline between us when words had failed. I answer on the second ring, voice barely steady. "She's awake," the voice on the other end said softly. "We talked. She's scared, but she's holding on." Relief washed over me like a tide, but it was tempered by the raw edge of fear. The fragility in that voice told me this was just one small victory in a much larger battle. I pressed for details, desperate to understand what Emma was facing alone. Our friend told me Emma was at a crossroads. They explained. She was about to make a decision that could have been dangerous, something I don't think she was ready for. But the call gave her pause. She didn't want to talk to you directly, but she needed to know someone was there. I closed my eyes, picturing Emma in that moment. The fear, the loneliness, the weight of a choice she felt she had to carry herself. Knowing this call had arrived just in time was both a balm and a wound. How close had she come to falling through the cracks? I thanked our friend, my voice thick with emotion. "Please keep checking on her. Tell her I'm here, that I love her." After hanging up, I sat back, the room suddenly suffocating in its stillness. The knowledge that Emma had been teetering on the edge, that she'd almost faced this crisis alone, settled heavy in my chest. I wondered how many signs I'd missed, how many moments she'd reached out in silence. And yet, despite everything, there was a sliver of hope, a path forward. The fact that she hadn't shut everyone out completely meant there was still a chance to bridge the gap, to reach her heart again. I reached for the phone and typed a message, careful to keep it gentle, knowing that any pressure might push her away. "I'm here, Emma. No matter what, you're not alone." Minutes later, a reply came. It was short, hesitant, but it was a start. "Thank you." That simple word sparked a fragile connection, a thread woven through the darkness. I held on to it, knowing that rebuilding trust would be slow and uncertain, but possible. As the night deepened, I thought about the delicate balance of wanting to protect her while respecting her space. I had always been quick to act, to fix things with words or gestures, but this time it wasn't about me. It was about listening, waiting, and being present without overwhelming. The phone buzzed again. This time, the message wasn't from Emma, but from the friend who had spoken to her. "She's open to talking when she's ready." I told her you care. I felt a swell of gratitude. It was a small victory, but in the silent war we were fighting, it meant everything. I spent the rest of the night in quiet reflection, replaying memories of Emma's childhood. Her laughter, her curiosity, the moments when she had confided in me freely. Those memories were reminders of the bond we shared beneath the pain and distance. I realized that Emma's struggle was not just about the present moment. It was about years of misunderstandings, unspoken fears, and the silent walls we'd built around ourselves. But it was also about resilience, about the love that still lingered beneath the surface. I resolved to be patient, to give her the time and space she needed while never letting go of my presence in her life. I would be the steady hand she could reach for when she was ready. As dawn crept through the curtains, I felt a cautious optimism settle in my heart. The night had been dark, but it had also been a turning point, a moment when hope found its way through the cracks. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, filled with uncertainty and fragile steps. But for the first time in a long while, I believed we could walk it together. And so I waited, not with empty hands or hollow promises, but with an open heart, ready to listen, to support, and to love Emma in the way she needed most. The next day, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Emma. Her message was tentative, almost fragile. "Can we talk?" Those two words felt like a door creaking open after a long, cold winter. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, hands trembling as I typed back the simplest reply I could manage. "Whenever you're ready, I'm here." Minutes later, my phone rang. I answered, and her voice, soft and hesitant, filled the room. It was the Emma I remembered, the one beneath the walls of silence and fear. She spoke carefully at first, as if testing the waters, but soon her words began to flow, revealing the struggle she had buried deep inside. She told me about the loneliness that had grown over months, the weight of facing challenges alone, and the fear that no one would understand. Her voice cracked as she described the nights she'd spent wrestling with dark thoughts, the moments she tried to hold on but felt herself slipping. Hearing her pain, I felt a lump rise in my throat, a mixture of sorrow and relief that she was finally letting me in. I listened without interruption, letting her lead the conversation, knowing that this was her moment to be heard. When she paused, I offered gentle reassurance, telling her how proud I was of her strength and how much I loved her. I didn't try to fix everything with words. I simply held space for her pain and hope alike. She shared fears she hadn't dared voice before, the feeling of isolation, the pressure to appear strong, and the shame that came with asking for help. I told her none of it mattered to me because my love was unconditional, a constant she could always rely on. As our conversation deepened, the walls between us began to crumble. Emma's voice grew steadier, her words more confident. She spoke of wanting to heal, to find a way back from the darkness, and to rebuild the connection we'd lost. I promised to walk beside her, not as a judge or savior, but as a partner in her journey. After we hung up, I felt a mixture of exhaustion and hope. The rawness of our exchange lingered, but so did the sense of something new, a fragile thread of trust weaving between us again. Later that afternoon, the friend who had helped me stayed in touch, providing updates and offering support. Their presence reassured both Emma and me, a reminder that she was not alone and that a network of care surrounded her. I realized how important it was to involve others, friends, professionals, people who could offer different kinds of help. Together, we formed a quiet safety net beneath the fragile steps Emma was beginning to take. Over the next days, our communication remained steady but gentle. Emma shared small victories and setbacks, and I responded with patience and encouragement. Each message was a building block, a step toward healing. I reflected on how much this journey was about connection, about breaking through the silence that had kept us apart. It wasn't about rushing to fix everything, but about showing up consistently with empathy and love. One evening, Emma sent a message that made my heart swell. "Thank you for not giving up on me." It was a simple phrase, but it carried the weight of forgiveness and hope. I replied, "I never will. We'll get through this together." In those moments, I understood that our relationship was changing, evolving into something stronger and more authentic. The pain hadn't vanished, but it was no longer a chasm. It was a bridge we were building piece by piece. I thought about the power of vulnerability, how opening up could heal wounds that silence only deepened. Emma's willingness to share her struggles was a courageous act, one that invited me to meet her with the same openness. As I prepared for sleep that night, I felt a quiet peace settle over me. The journey ahead would be long and uncertain, but we had taken the first steps toward renewal. And in that, there was profound hope. The sun was dipping low when my phone buzzed again, but this time the message was different. It wasn't a plea or a cry for help. It was an invitation. "Dad, can I come visit this weekend?" The words felt like a fragile bridge extending across the distance that had grown between us. I stared at the screen, the weight of hope and fear mingling in my chest. After so long, after so much silence, Emma was reaching out, not just with words, but with trust. I typed back quickly, my fingers trembling. "I'd like that very much. Take your time. I'll be here." The days leading up to her visit were filled with a strange mix of anticipation and nervousness. I found myself cleaning the house with more care than usual, straightening things that didn't need straightening, trying to prepare not just a space, but a heart ready to receive her. I thought about all the conversations we'd lost, the laughter that had faded, and the love that had never truly gone away. When Emma walked through the door, there was a moment where we just looked at each other. Two people changed by time and pain, but still connected by something stronger than the wounds between us. She smiled tentatively, and I felt a flood of emotion rise, a mixture of relief and gratitude that she had chosen to come back. Our days together were quiet, but filled with meaning. We talked about the small things at first, the weather, a book she was reading, the scent of the garden after rain. Slowly, the walls came down, and we shared more, a memory, a fear, a hope. Each moment was a stitch in the fabric of our renewed bond. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sky fade to twilight, Emma reached out and took my hand. The gesture was simple, but it spoke volumes. It said, "I'm here, I'm trying, and I want you to be part of my life again." In that moment, I realized that true success was not measured by fixing every problem or erasing every scar, but by the courage to reconnect, to forgive, and to love despite the past. We made plans to keep building this new relationship, calls, visits, shared moments, not as perfect people, but as two souls willing to heal together. The past was a shadow, but it no longer defined us. Later, as I tucked him in that night, I felt a shift within me. The fear that had once ruled my heart softened, replaced by a quiet confidence in the power of love and patience. I knew the road ahead would still have challenges, but we had found a way forward. As I closed the door behind her, I whispered a promise to the night. I would always be here, ready to listen, to support, and to love. And in that promise, I found peace. If you love the story, like the video and subscribe.